Hello, everyone. This is the MS Power User Podcast. This is the podcast for the Microsoft enthusiast and power user. We discuss the latest news from mspoweruser.com and other great sources of Microsoft news around the web. My name is Vernon E.L. Smith, and I'm joined as usual by Andy Bennett. Andy, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. It's been a bit of a rough week weather-wise, as we were supposed to get some rain that we needed, and we didn't really. I mean, we got like 15 to 30 minutes last night, but that's it. So yeah, very, very dry time. A little hard to keep windows open because just the allergies are just so bad here.
We had some awesome rain, some of the best storms we've had in a while here. Quite entertaining, a little bit sleep depriving, but well worth it. And then I've had a pretty busy week with work, been out of town, just got back after some training out of town. So I'm exhausted, but I'm excited. We got some cool news, and we're gonna cover. It's gonna be a good show.
Yeah. So I think we should start the show off by talking about the MS Power User app. It's out now in the Windows Store, and to get it, it's as easy as simply opening up the Windows Store, typing MS Power User, and searching. It's a very, very good app, and I'm pretty sure that our readers are going to like it.
Absolutely. Built from the ground up for Windows 10, obviously. Has the Windows 10 UI, all the features of it, notifications. They're working very well on my phone. I've not really messed around with it much on on big Windows desktop yet, but it's solid. I'm happy with it. It's nice to have the news right there, and of course all the Windows 10 features. So that's it's pretty good. It's cool. Yeah. Nice job.
And one of my personal favorite parts is the theming. You don't just have light, you don't just have dark, you have accents, which is something that a lot of apps really need to bring in.
For sure.
So anyways, moving on to today's news, or rather this week's, we've got an article, Microsoft still doesn't take Chromebooks seriously, which is a very, very, very interesting thing to think about because, while Microsoft has some partners who make some cheap and solid PCs, like, for example, the HP Stream, Google is doing that same thing with the Chromebooks, and it's also got the edge of it isn't Windows, in a way. Now, while Windows has more features, that's kind of the Achilles heel here, in the same way, because Chromebooks are very, very good in the education market. You can't install anything. You have this lockdown operating system that can open the web. It can open pages for students to research things or tests. You can't do anything else.
It's difficult for me to get over that. Being not as young. I mean, I have a child in high school. Like she doesn't like Chrome. She doesn't like Google. She doesn't like Chromebooks, and that isn't necessarily from my influence. But she just feels that she's getting kind of a second-class experience with that. But some people that are just growing up with it, that's what they're using. Google Docs, for example, that's all they need, and they're not going to try to aspire to have to be any better than that. Obviously, Microsoft has Word Online, and OneDrive ties in together greatly for that, very, very, very well. But there's really not much. There's not many compelling reasons for someone to use Office. I should say Office Online and OneDrive over Chrome and Google Drive. For your average, your simple tasks, and that's a little bit disappointing. What about people your peers as far as using Chromebooks versus Windows?
Well, the thing about people here using Chromebooks is that I have not met a single Chromebook user whatsoever, so I can't really comment on that. Their market share is much, much lower, but if you go to a school, I'm pretty sure that if you go to, say, a higher-end place than you'll find around here, I'm pretty sure you'll find quite a few Chromebooks around the place. But Microsoft issued a statement saying that we've got to get through what it is typically what reporters will say is Chromebooks versus Windows, and that's not really the issue. We're going to be the company who is standing first on how we do the right, or how we drive the right impact on students and outcomes. When I think about the competition facing us as a company, I don't think about Google, Apple, or Chromebooks. I think about student graduation rates, employability rates, how to keep teachers in the profession, and how we drive the schools to maximize impact. And they say that's what we're struggling with, and the whole industry needs to struggle with it. One technology will come and be used, but we're thinking, obviously, about how to make Windows a great platform for schools, but we want to broaden our focus beyond the next device and think differently as a company. I will tell you that there is no company which is ahead of us in that space or is thinking as deeply as us about how we do make an impact in classrooms.
That's nice to hear from Microsoft, basically acknowledging what their battle.
They acknowledge the battle, but they don't think it's as much of a threat as it might turn out to be.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't necessarily say if it was such a big threat, would they? I mean, they wouldn't want to always admit something like that. Maybe, I don't know. They're always going to put their spin on it, and I understand that.
Yeah, marketing talk.
Mm-hmm. Well, my daughter has an HP Stream. She's very happy with it. It does everything she needs to. She actually recorded a podcast on it. She did her own audio even, ran Audacity, was in a separate room, ran it through Firefox and all that, and did a great job with it. It handled that perfectly.
You're raising them well.
Well, I'm trying, yeah. $200 HP Stream, or no, $220 because it was the touchscreen model. Expandable storage, USB, obviously. I mean, like, not that that's USB ports. Obviously better than an iPad Pro. Think of it that way. But you could get a Chromebook for cheaper, and if people are, there's compelling reasons for it. And I guess
think
as
really,
a Microsoft enthusiast,
if Microsoft wanted to really try and take on the Chromebook and do that easily, you'd have more devices like the HP Stream. But not only that, but you'd have a specific way to activate a stripped down Windows mode. You've got Edge, you've got basic built-in apps that are essential like Calculator or maybe Maps, and Word maybe have this come with Word or have Word enabled with it, but that's where it ends. Something that's seriously work focused where you can't just goof off. Because if you want to compete with Chromebooks in school, there you go.
But I mean, the web, you can goof off in any manner of speaking on the web. I mean, there's all types of. If you have access to the web, you have access to most of that. Of course,
you can't get around. You don't have the option of getting around filters to download stuff or whatever when it's just not possible to download anything, though.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. I think the whole Office suite would be pretty reasonable to have on there, but then again, you could just use the Office Online anyway. All right. Well, pretty much every episode we talk about a phone that we don't have, and it's been the HP Elite X3. Sweet phone. Okay, all the specs are, awesome and all that if you're about to buy a Windows phone, Windows mobile device. Well, we do have a release date on here, and I guess I need the right tab. That would be helpful. Early August is what we're coming up with, so that's not really a date.
This is the
part of a month.
Yeah, this is the UK release date and price, just to make that clear.
Yeah. For folks in the US like Andy and myself, we may never get an official release on this thing into to a carrier. I would imagine, I'm quite confident it will be available in the Microsoft Store in the US, but that is pure speculation, and we will continue having that conversation for months and months, I'm sure. But for now, you can get it in the UK soon, and the price is where did it go here? I am blind. 680 pounds UK, and that is, I guess, not too bad. I mean, it's a pretty awesome device, but the thing is, so many people already have the 950 or 950 XL. The people that would want this phone either have no problem dropping money on it because this is just a write-off for their business, or this is another toy, or these people are Windows mobile enthusiasts and they already have a 950 or 950 XL, and they would probably trade it off or something like that to get this device. The Elite X3 does appeal to me. I love Windows mobile devices. Having a Continuum obviously is pretty sweet. 4 gigs of RAM is cool. 64 gig onboard storage, not really appealing to me, only because it is a bigger number. Okay, yay, I'll go with that. And it does have the Snapdragon 820 in it. That's substantial, I think. But the way Windows Mobile runs, I don't really know if we're going to see a big difference in that as a phone. But when it comes to Continuum, using that with Continuum, running Continuum that way could be make or break. Like that could really kickstart people using Continuum.
I think it's more than just people, really. Useful. I think it's very much a business phone. I mean, their entire audience is the enterprise with this, which, explains the high price, high specs, high everything.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, the price of this continues to go up when you figure in the accessories with it, as far as, like, the lap dock. I think they're calling it a lap dock, where you just put your phone in. You wouldn't connect it wirelessly or connect it with the Continuum dock, the traditional one, but you would dock it into this keyboard and display. So there's a lot of value there, tons of potential. This is the high end for right now, and I think we're going to continue to see things like this, which will be moving forward. I guess moving forward is that Lenovo also announced a Windows 10 mobile device. This little buddy is not like the X3, although is not, get all my tabs mixed up. Wow.
Well, I'd say I can actually do some of this, because the biggest difference between this one and the X3, ignoring everything else, is that you're not going to get this one outside of Japan, most likely. Lenovo teamed up with both Microsoft Japan and SoftBank to manufacture the device, which we called the SoftBank 503 LV. It has a 5-inch HD display.
Such a sexy name. Yeah, but then again, it's in Japanese, so
Konnichiwa.
I did. Yeah. Sorry. I had to go ahead.
Okay, well, it comes with a 5-inch HD display, and under the hood, there's an octa-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 617 processor. Try saying that 5 times fast. Clocked in at 1.5 gigahertz. Storage, there's 32 gigs of internal storage, which is fairly standard, but it's also got a micro SD card slot, which allows users to expand storage up to 128 gigs. And the battery is
2250. Yeah. 2250 is pretty meager, but it does have a slower processor, or it is a little bit slower. Octa-core could be pretty efficient. We'll see. This is not your flagship device, but with the Snap 617, the 600 series typically isn't that appealing to people. But this, I've heard good things about this so far, and I think it will be quite reasonable, be quite satisfactory, just not a flagship, in my opinion.
It supports Continuum at least, which is pretty nice. Yeah. I honestly don't see much to go for a Windows 10 phone, specifically for any specific features other than Continuum, really. Mm-hmm. But either way, it's apparently also targeted towards businesses and will be available for sale in late October. Ooh boy, I'm shivering imagining import prices. We don't know the price of the regular device yet, but I can imagine the import's going to be pretty high.
Now, I could see myself with this phone, actually. If this came to the U.S., say if it's available in October, comes to the U.S. by November, maybe December, I might go for this. I don't know.
Alternative option, get out your Japanese to English dictionary and, read through that a couple of times before October. Maybe you'll be able to get ready for it.
Yeah. But I don't mind a smaller device. 5-inch display is fine with me. The 950 is a 5.2, of course. And I don't need my phone to do all these powerful things, and I am okay with a cheaper device. I can't quite justify the X3 at its price as soon, but this smaller thing, this little Lenovo, I think it'd be kind of cool to try this thing out if it has the right bands and then the price is decent in the US. We'll see.
Yeah. And now we are once again getting more and more and more builds. And because we are, like I mentioned last week, we are in the home stretch of Redstone. And the latest build to be released as of time of recording, by the time in the morning when we release this, there's a chance that the next build will be out. They're pushing them out so fast. But as of now, it's 14,388, which is pretty standard for the builds at this point. There's just fixes, no real new features, and that's really all you're going to get at this stage, I'm afraid.
Now, I was listening to a different podcast. I guess I might as well say Windows Weekly. I listen to that show. Pretty much everyone does, and I listen there mostly because of the guests that they have on sometimes. And I like Mary Jo Foley; she's pretty cool. But Donna Sarkar was on this week, and she actually talked about she was asked, when is Windows 10 RTMing? Now, of course, that is an archaic term and it's not used anymore. And she says August 2nd. Well, that's when it is available. They want to know when it's RTMing. She says August 2nd. That's when it's RTMing.
Oh man, that would be scary.
That's crazy, right? Well, she has a point that it's always the latest, whatever the latest version is available, that's as good as it's gonna get. They've kind of drawn a deadline here. We're gonna push it out, and I think most people can agree these insider builds are satisfactory. We're not at a complaining point anymore. And so a term that she was coming up with was, instead of RTM, which is released to manufacturer, obviously a years old term, is now released to the world. So we have another acronym, RTTW.
Or RTW.
Yeah, the world.
Released to web, released to Windows, released to world.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I like her approach. She did a great job on there. I don't plug this pod. I don't plug Windows Weekly very often, but it was great to see a nice guest on there. And no, Donna Sarkar seems like she's doing an amazing job so far. Fantastic.
I always do like when members of big companies, like Microsoft, go on podcasts and talk or stuff, because you get to see this human side, which is a bit more than just Twitter PR, and you get to see, hey, they're human too. It's always really nice to have that.
Exactly.
Anyways, though, talking about the build itself, the improvements and fixes for PC, there's just 4 of them, which are, pretty standard, pretty boring. They updated the store to a version with more bug fixes. They fixed an issue where the narrator keyboard shortcuts would not work after you're locking your PC and then logging back in and going to your desktop. We fixed an issue where narrator would not read the time and date under settings, time and language, date and time. We fixed a TPM driver crash that could result in the device bug checking, blue screen, and rebooting. And there's the mobile fixes, which you can handle.
Yeah, they upgraded the store for mobile, which was the same problems and fixes for the store for desktop. Fixed the issue causing the keyboard not to show up consistently for in private mode in Edge. And an issue that resulted in an app getting into a state after being suspended, where it would be unable to launch until rebooting the device. Basically, locking up an app. Great. I mean, these are tiny fixes, and maybe there's things we're missing. But why would these even be? The fact that these are on their target board and they're even publishing the fixes means that we are so close. And I don't know who's disagreeing with that. We're ready.
Yeah. And word on the street is that tomorrow we should end up with the final build with the it's RTM. It's RTM.
Yeah.
And that should be build 14,000 390.
Yep.
And
So
that should be RTM unless anything screws up. That should be it.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear Microsoft's team getting ready to hang me for saying that a few times, but
well, it was just 2 weeks.
That should be it.
Just 2 weeks ago, it's about time, and so Microsoft is still trying to get people to upgrade before this July 29th. We'll remind people again after July 29th, there will not be free upgrades. Please go upgrade. But Microsoft is having a little promo, basically, where you go into a Microsoft store, and if they cannot upgrade you, you get, $150 towards the purchase of a new PC. They also make the point to recycle your old device that they were unable to upgrade. And I guess that's fair, whatever.
What I want to know is, do they have the cool robot arm that Apple has? Why, clearly, that's the important thing when it comes to recycling.
Guess I'm not aware of that. But yeah, Microsoft is still doing this little minor push to help people get through this. And that's fine. That is good. But $150 off, they're just trying to help you move along. That is if they cannot upgrade you. And of course, the point is to upgrade. After July 29th, it's $129 or $200, depending on which version you get. And of course, the big anniversary update is August 2nd. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. And
so, on to some sad news. Finland, where lots of Microsofties, who were not Microsofties before, they had folks from Nokia. Some of them had a stint as Microsoft employees, and now 1,350 of them have lost their jobs. That sucks. From a human standpoint, I mean, what else do you say? That just stinks. That's too bad.
From both a human and business standpoint, what you can say is, I really do wish I had a time machine so I could go say, please, don't buy Nokia. They probably would have been bought by someone else, but they would have been bought by someone who actually put them to use and didn't put so many people out of a job.
That really is too bad. But I think it was still a wise move for Microsoft. I don't know if paying that much, obviously paying that much wasn't wise, but I think it's quite obvious, I believe, that if they had not, someone else would have bought Nokia. And perhaps if no one had bought them, or say someone with not as deep pockets had bought them, then they could have just floundered, or they could have gone belly up even earlier. So I do not remember when the purchase actually took place, but these people that have been let go have had jobs this past several years, where perhaps they may not have even before then. And they may have ended their jobs earlier. And Microsoft has always done a great job of trying to help people transition out. I'm sure there's a good severance package. That's never really a great consolation prize. But unfortunately, Microsoft is a business and they're not a charity. But they are also, I'm sure they were good to these people as to the extent that they could. And certainly some of them did had opportunities to come over to Redmond. With the skills that these people had, they could have moved on, working for Google, working for Apple, whatever, or potentially just going to a different manufacturing, depending on what type of job they had. But nevertheless, it's unfortunate, and of course, the 1350 number, 1,300 people, is
it's huge.
It's huge.
I'm interested to find out what's going to happen to LinkedIn. After this is happening to the sad remains of Nokia, what's going to happen to LinkedIn?
Yeah. We'll see. That's a lot of money. I mean, we thought the $8 billion for Nokia was a lot. 26 is nuts. 26 billion. Anyway, wow. But yeah, it's sad, but that is the way of business.
And now, on to news that I'm certain 5 people are going to be very excited about. Skype for Linux is out. And it's a web app.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because people, sometimes the loudest proponents of something are in the area of the smallest numbers, I should say. If someone is if there's a small cross section of people doing something, they almost feel compelled to speak more loudly and make a bigger stink about something.
Smaller the group, the louder the voice.
Yeah, yeah. And so people have been asking for this. I haven't been asking for this. This isn't my thing, but it's available. Skype for Linux, yay, and all that.
Yeah, and the thing is that, it isn't even a fancy advanced app or anything. No, this is just a web app wrapped up as a regular application. Tom Hounsell has been messing around with it, and he's gotten it running. He's gotten he's gotten Skype for Linux running on Windows, and then also on OS X. No, Mac OS. Now Apple's going to lynch me too. Great.
So, yay for those people that are happy for you guys, I guess. I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah. I mean, last I checked, Windows Vista has higher user count than Linux, which I expect that to change sometime soon, but who knows?
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get on to something that you know more about and are much more excited about. Well, in general, I should say. Xbox.
Yeah. So, and this is something that I can't really comment on the quality of Cortana on the Xbox One. However, I can comment on PC quality and say that because of the Cortana's bad days, I'm not surprised by this. Cortana on the Xbox One has been particularly bad, far worse than any bad points you'd see using it on Windows or Windows Phone. And Xbox One preview members now finally have the option to disable her.
This has been a huge source of contention, at least for the folks on Twitter. We see this a lot, where, okay, why, if it's the same backend, we think it's the same backend for Xbox On, the Xbox Connect voice interaction, and Cortana. It would make sense that it is the same backend. Why on earth is Xbox On working so much better than Cortana turn on the Xbox? Or Cortana, Xbox On, well, then that would work, obviously. I don't understand why it wasn't working very well, but there was no question people were ticked about this. And
PG-13. Actually, wait, no, we got to keep it G.
Yeah, we got to keep it G. There's no doubt people were upset about this, but I just don't know why Microsoft wouldn't have just had this work to begin with. Maybe, what am I missing? I mean, I don't know.
I'm not sure either, but I think it might have something to do with the fact that it's a totally different set of commands from normal. For the most part, there's search for X, Y, or Z, which I've seen pictures where someone said, "Hey, Cortana, mute," and it searched for a certain word that brought up certain results. That, again, G rating. But, yeah.
Interesting. All right, well, I guess that's okay. Well, something that I noticed, I saw a gaming console announced that I might actually pick up, and I just barely saw the headline, didn't have a chance to look at this or anything. Pricing, blah blah blah, whatever. But the old NES.
Wait, we gotta have a disclaimer now. We are now going into this far, far away forbidden land where we don't utter the word Microsoft for a couple minutes.
That's true.
We'll be right back to it, though. This is same bat time, same bat channel.
Yep. Get back to us in a little bit. Hit fast forward a little bit if you need to. But we're going to talk about some non-Microsofty stuff because we're still kind of nerds. Maybe I'm not a very good nerd, but this NES, the new old NES.
New old thing? Same old thing?
It has appealed to me. And it's updated, okay? It's like putting airbags in your 73 Nova, okay? It's updated to where it's got a HDMI port and basically just hard drive. I don't think it's a disk. I think it's flash, I'm sure, that has just a few classic games on there. To be honest, I don't know much more about it. I didn't see a price on here. This isn't like a news article item we're really trying to cover. But it drew to me, and I think I would not mind my children playing this. Okay, at my 4-year-old, let him play Mario Brothers or something. I would be totally fine with that, and I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, it's called the NES Classic, which is basically a plug-and-play machine. I'm going to be honest here. It has 30 different classic NES games, will not connect to the internet, will not use physical media of any kind whatsoever. It's just one simple little system. You got 2 controller ports, you plug it into your TV via HDMI, and there you go. I'm kind of surprised this hasn't happened yet, really, because, let's see, Sega's done the same thing already with handheld Sega Genesis units. Atari's done the same thing with Lord knows how many Atari Classic packs over the years. But yeah, it's a neat, nifty little nostalgic thing for anyone who has fond memories of the NES or wants to make some.
Did you see a price anywhere? $100 or something?
I think it's $60.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
I just might get this. I just might do this. I'm not going to dwell on it anyway, but it's interesting. I think it's
now the burning question in my mind: will Cortana work well on the NES? It actually the Japanese version of the controllers actually had a little microphone port. Someone needs to get to porting it.
Cool. All right. I think we will. Are we gonna talk about that other non-Microsoft thing that has been just messing up SEO all week?
2 words: go away.
That's true.
Listen, I think it's time that we exit the Twilight Zone and get back to our comfort zone. And let's talk about Microsoft Groove. Because this is something that has just happened, so the update might still be propagating, but your Groove, or my Groove, everybody's Groove, is now rolling out to everyone. Not just the Windows Insider program. It's everyone. If you're on build 10586, you should get this. And if you don't have it now, a couple hours, but regardless, your Groove's out for everybody. I've heard a lot of stuff about this, and despite just signing up for a Groove Music Pass to try it, I haven't got it working yet, so I think it's best Vernon explains it.
All right, so Your Groove is a new feature for Groove Music. Okay, most people, you may or may not know this. Groove is Microsoft's music streaming service. We know this. It's available. It is available on iOS, available on Android. When they came out, they were adequate apps. You could stream your music there. That was the whole point. Obviously, you can access your music from OneDrive there if you upload all your OneDrive stuff. Also, you can. Let's see. If you have the Groove Pass, if you pay, I believe it's $9.99 a month or it's $100 a year. And there's quite often good sales on this. At one year, I got a whole year for $20. Needless to say, I bought 4 of them or something, and I did this for my family and everything. And it was a wonderful year, right? I've been using a version of this for a long time. When I first got a Windows Phone, 2010, it was called Zune Pass, and I began paying for it. I think it was like $7 to begin with, went up to 10, went to $15, but the $15 version back then allowed you to get 10 downloads per month that you would keep. Now that means even after you ended your subscription, you would get to keep those tracks. And typically that's about an album. So every month you get a free album. I did that every month or when I remembered. And so for years I had that, and it continued on. There was a long, even after you could not get that plan anymore, of course, they continued it for those that were grandfathered in. So I have a good collection that way. And
is it still continuing to this day?
No, they did end that about, I don't know what it was, a year ago, something like that. Finally phased it out. But it was it was time anyway. It was still $15 a month, and I rolled back to $10 a month, or 10, I suppose. After they ended it, I kept it as long as I could. But it used to be called Zune Pass. It went to Xbox Music, so it was Xbox Music Pass. It was that way for a year or two. I don't know how long Xbox Music was the term. And then a while ago, it went to Groove Music and Groove Music Pass. So many of you already know this. Some of you may not at all. Spotify is a great competitor to this, and I have used it a bit. My daughter really likes Spotify, and a huge advantage Spotify has is that you have a family plan. I believe it's I don't remember how much it is. You can find that out. But that is obviously up to 5. I think it's 5 users, and it's worthwhile. Groove Music does not have that. That stinks. I want Groove Music family plan for my whole family, and I would find that very compelling. A few months ago, Groove was dying off. People were becoming disenfranchised with it, especially when Spotify brought out their family plan. It was like, oh, Groove there's no reason for it to stick around. Why does Microsoft even have this? They should just drop it. Don't waste their money on it, blah, blah, blah. Well, there was a shift in people's mentality, and I don't really know what started it, because all of a sudden, people started liking Groove again. And it's not like it changed that much. There were always little updates here. I think Ellen Kilborn on Twitter is a great one to follow. She runs Groove updates.
Not just Groove.
Like that.
She has a Microsoft. I think it's called Movies and TV now, or Film and TV, depending on your region. Okay. And she posts about updates there too. She just released some stuff on a new one today, which isn't a too big update if I remember correctly. But if you're an insider, you should have an update to that.
Nice. So she stays ahead of that, lets people know when there's updates. The updates that were coming along were not substantial, but they're just little tiny incremental things. But all of a sudden, a switch flipped for people, and they're like, hey, Groove is cool again. Well, I never disliked it. It worked on iOS and Android. Those apps have not been updated very well, but both on the desktop and on Windows Mobile, it's been great. One thing I didn't talk about is that there's still a web player. I really don't recall the address, but search Groove Music on web or something, and you can play it, especially if you don't have a Windows 10 PC or a Windows 8 8.1 PC. If you're running Windows 7, say for Enterprise, like my case, then you can you can access everything there. This is not groundbreaking, but it's something people forget about, to have all your music right there, even your OneDrive stuff. So by having the Groove Pass, you have an additional 100 gigabytes of storage, which is available for anything, actually. But the point is for you to upload your music there, and that way you can access it there. So, for example, one of my favorite bands is Tool. And Tool does not publish their stuff to any streaming service, none that I'm aware of. But I own some of those albums, and so I can upload those. I have, and I can stream them from the web, from my Groove Music apps, obviously, and listen to my music right alongside with my subscription music. Not groundbreaking, like I said, but I love that it's there. Well, one thing that we had a few weeks ago, if you were an insider, Fast Ring, the update gave you it's called Your Groove. Some of you know about this already. Basically, it is curated lists, and now it is now available on production, or general release, I should say. Some of the things in here, basically, it goes with what you've recently listened to. That's nothing new. But mainstream rock of the 60s, suspenseful indie, artists with recent releases. Okay, these are things that have been kind of personalized for me. Aggressive alternative metal. Okay. And also what I like here is heavy rotation. It shows what I've been listening to lately. And that isn't just recent. That really gets you a better idea of what you're listening to. Also, you have another good one is where did it go? Well, I like this one. Focus while you work. I like that one. Focus while you work. Check that one out and see if it see if it helps. Forgotten favorites. That's a nice one because it does. It is nostalgic. It's like, oh, you've been listening to these months or even years ago. You played a lot of these. It brings it back around. And of course, simple things: rap, metal, critically acclaimed alternative, that kind of stuff. Before the party, that's kind of interesting. I could go on and on, but it's a combination of general curated lists, but also things specific to what you've been listening to, and based off of your OneDrive, obviously, what music you have in there, and also what you've been playing, your play count. So I wasn't trying to spend too much time on this, but I felt it was worth more than just hitting it as a news line. I really enjoy Groove. I really do.
I think we should actually spend a little time talking about Groove, really, because you're someone who has used Groove for a while throughout all of its various iterations, whereas I'm someone who just recently tonight began using it as more than just a music player, which I thought it failed as just a music player. I go to it as a streaming service, and since your Groove is out for everybody, and it's actually pretty nice. There's some features that I think are kind of essential, like add this artist's entire discography to your library. And I feel that there's some areas where Spotify does some stuff better, but it's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And as you have been talking, I actually was setting up the Android app though, and this is, of all the apps for Microsoft to have a subpar experience on, this is definitely not the one you want to have it on. And it's I just quickly looking at it, it's got a gigantic hamburger menu. Like, you open it up and there's 4 items that are huge. No, maybe it's a thing to talk about for another day, but it just does not seem like it's a good experience on a non-Windows device, which is made by an actually good development team for Windows. So whatever.
Well, I think I've heard 2 things. Microsoft wants to make the experience the same for everybody, and I think that on Android and iOS, all the UI between the apps, there's no real concerted effort to make them the same as the OS. Okay, I think that's pretty. I don't see that changing. Maybe it's starting to, whatever. But I think that has always been kind of you stab into an app on iOS, you have the app experience, then you back out of it and you stab into another app, and that is your different experience. Where Windows Phone and Windows Mobile has always tried to have a fluid experience throughout the entire OS and the apps, of course. And I appreciate that about Windows Mobile right now. It isn't perfect. There's still a lot of 8.1 apps out there that are, while I actually appreciate the UI of Windows Phone 7 especially, and then 8 and 8.1, I see that Windows Mobile is the direction they're going, well, obviously, but it's a reasonable direction, and I like, as we continue to adopt more and more the UI throughout the entire OS, of course, including all the apps. The other aspect I was bringing up was, okay, that's right, that Microsoft has said best on Windows, meaning that they're putting their stuff everywhere. Okay, web, obviously, you can access so many Microsoft services just through the web, whatever it is, but also apps they're putting on. I mean, we see the tons and tons of apps on mobile, on iOS, I should say, tons and tons of Microsoft apps on Android, but they have made it clear that the best on mobile. There's a few counter exceptions to that, where the Sunrise app, for example, is a wonderful calendar app on iOS. Microsoft owns Sunrise, but the calendar app in Windows Mobile, which I'm satisfied with, does not have all the features of Sunrise. And also, same thing with Outlook for iOS. There are a few different things in there that are slightly better than the built-in app for Windows 10 Mobile, but the Windows 10 mobile app is so much more fluid and so more stable, just straight up works great, as opposed to being a little bit janky on iOS as far as stability. So best on Windows. I like that Microsoft said that. It was a while ago they said that, 3 years ago or so, maybe 2 years.
I don't really know if, with some of their recent purchases, I think for best on Windows to be a thing that keeps on happening, I think they're going to have to definitely change some things around internally. They're going to have to get all these companies they've gathered I think they need to get them integrated with the regular Microsoft team of developers if they haven't already. Get everything together and just have an actual team that works in sync, you know?
Mm-hmm. Now that you say that, it actually reminds me of something that we did not cover last week, which we should have. Microsoft executive Kevin Turner has resigned. This is a while ago, or a week ago at least. Resigned and has moved on to be a, president or CEO of something else. I really don't care. It doesn't, it's nothing mobile related, nothing Windows related. And it's like,
really, all I really know about Kevin Turner is that there are a lot of people who are happy he's gone, and makes me kind of glad I didn't have to work with him when I see all sorts of things, including t-shirts saying hooray he's gone or things like that. But yeah.
But then again, in a large organization, I mean, you want your executives to be liked. But this is not a presidential popularity race. This is a company who needs to make money. And so the top people to run the company may be doing a splendid job of guiding this ship, but they just may rub people the wrong way. They may have to make choices which are unpopular, but still best for the company, maybe even best for the employees. Just, it's like you tell a little 4-year-old, I don't want to go inside and take a bath. I want to go stay outside and play in the mud. Well, he doesn't know or care that that's best for him to go inside, but that is the executive decision that the parent made, and it's doing what's best for them. So I'm not saying Kevin Turner was right and that people not liking him was unjustified. I have no idea. But sometimes in a business standpoint, being disliked doesn't mean that you're not respected, and who knows, whatever. I don't really care. I'm not trying to speculate too much. So that's basically, in a nutshell, my thoughts on Kevin Turner. I don't have anything, personal, obviously, but a lot of people have opinions about it, and it was newsworthy. Andy, that's about it, man. I had fun recording this.
Yeah,
it's a lot later than I had hoped due to some other issues I had, but I don't know. There's going to be a better way to end a podcast, right?
Hey, I know a way to end it. Thanks for listening to the MS Power User Podcast. You can follow the site on Twitter at MSPowerUser, and by doing this, you can also find out when each new episode is available for consumption. Also, be sure to subscribe to the show with your favorite podcast app. We have links on the site to all the different places you can subscribe, and the episode will automatically download to your mobile device or PC, depending on what app you use, so you can hear us the moment the show is available. Have a great week, everybody!